I just realized I've been muted this whole time. That's funny. Anyways, welcome, Kevin. Welcome. Nobody else is watching at the moment.
Hello.
Whoa, you scared the
Sorry.
crap out of me. That's right, my
Sorry.
volume is a lot higher than I realized. Oh my gosh. I've been talking like almost constantly the whole time, and then it finally popped up and said, hey, you might want to unmute yourself.
Well, you know, sometimes I'm in a D&D group that will do a Google Hang, and you never know if there's a side conversation going on for story purposes. So I was just patiently waiting.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it was a good test run for myself. Now I can decide if I want to say any of the things I said or if I want to change it. No, I was just talking a little bit about what I was doing. I've ended up taking a quick little commission, and so I'm making a fast little just a placeholder mold for some kind of custom Space Marine elements. So that's what this is.
Oh, nice.
Just to get the shape down, because I need to do a custom emblem and then a couple helmets. So that would be fun to do that. I haven't done anything like that in a long time. So, and these will be 2 different helmets. So how's it going, Kevin? What are you up to?
Not much. I'm going on vacation at the end of this week, so I'm looking forward to. It'll be mostly staying home. So I've got a batch of sculpts that I'm working on right now. So it'll be nice to just have uninterrupted time to get that done.
Absolutely. I was just saying the exact same thing. I'm going on vacation at the end of the week, but I'm going to be here for the most part and kidless. They're going to Camp Grandma.
For half of the week, he'll be with his grandparents.
Awesome.
We're going up to Austin, Texas.
Fun. So what do you have in the works?
I tend to work in batches right now, so I'm actually kind of new to D&D. It was one of those things that I always wanted to play when I was a kid, but for whatever reason, never did it. I think part of it may have been a cultural thing. The Satanic Panic was going on whenever I was, in the late 80s and early 90s, and it's not that my parents were against it, but it was just one of those things that whenever I saw people making character sheets, I'm like, oh, I'm not cool enough for that.
No, I hear you. My parents weren't against it either, but it could be difficult at times to find, people that were okay with it and it didn't have a stigma. So,
well, you always had to know.
Oh, you just muted yourself too, or you got cut off. There it is.
Okay. Yeah, I just never had anybody in the know, and just never manifested itself. So I think we were at a Boxing Day lunch a few years ago, and basically all the adults there said we never played and we wanted to, so that's what we got into. So we were all just kind of first timers starting off, and this was right after, I believe, 5e was released. So it was all brand new to us.
Oh wow, that's very new then, right? That's because that just come out pretty recently.
Yeah. So we started off with Lego minifigs, and I started altering those. I found a website called customminifig.uk, and there was, whenever people do these things, they'll tell you how they made them, and one of them was a custom sculpt of Han Solo. And the description below said, "Oh, this was sculpted with green stuff." I'm like, "Oh, what's this green stuff?" So I actually found Milliput, which is what was available to me, and so from there, just turned into sculpting normal miniatures.
That's awesome.
So at the moment, I'm working on my group. If you hold on just a second, I can show some of my stuff.
Oopsie, that was loud. Shoot, wrong piece of paper.
Okay, I don't know how well you'll be able to see these, but this one wasn't for a group. This is just for my 3-year-old son.
Ah, cool.
Halfling fighter.
Fun.
This one is my character. It's a monk.
It's looking really good, man.
Oh, thank you. This is my wife's character. I've still got to do a few little touch-ups.
Cool.
And then at the moment, I'm working on a tiefling cleric. And then I've got a couple others skinned and waiting to go.
Sweet. Yeah, it's a good. You got to work that way with putty too, because you can. I mean, you can stick with a figure for a while, but it sometimes when you have to put it down, it's nice to be able to pick up another one and keep moving.
Well, initially I would always keep one on hand, so if I had too much putty, I could start putting a little bit of bulk on one of the armatures.
Right. This is an armature for a new project I'm starting, trying to kind of exploring. Been really into trying different proportioned and styled characters recently, not just, you know, humans and typical stuff. But it can sometimes be a challenge to figure out exactly the shape of the armature and needs to be. So I'm sure this guy will see adjustments before the end.
Have you ever found that working in larger scale is more difficult?
Yeah, I don't care for it as much. Takes a lot longer to do things. I mean, you can spend a lot of time on a miniature, but you just have to put in more detail. I mean, it just looks so plain otherwise. So that's where it is for me. I do have a large, like, statue kind of figure that I've had the armature built and the concept done for years, but I've just never gotten around to doing it. So I hope to do it soon, though. Got to get a couple other things out of the way first, but I think it'd be fun to try and do something larger. But that is just would purely be personal. I don't plan to try and market it or sell it or anything like that, which is probably why I keep doing this, because this is what, you know, the business that I know. So let's see.
Well, I did a sculpt for a friend that he did a normal miniature, but he had a familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a large steampunk Wolverine.
Oh.
And I just struggled with it mightily, and I think part of it.
Oh, you cut out again. I think you're back now.
I think I keep bumping the little headphone mic thing.
Gotcha.
I think part of it was I was trying to sculpt a large creature with size 0 tools.
Yes.
And it made smoothing a lot more difficult, and just I think I felt I was fighting the armature the whole time.
Were you also sculpting with green stuff still?
That one I used a mix. It was a mix of the 3 putties that you tend to use. Gotcha. The Procreate.
But it was all mixed with Aves, and then putty.
Yes.
Yeah. That can also.
I haven't gotten into the polymer clay. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of material that would go to waste. Unless you're just doing the outside.
Right. Well, I was actually saying when my mic wasn't on, I was saying how what was I saying? I haven't a brain fart. Oh, I was saying this is like I'm actually really enjoying sculpting and putty again recently. But one thing that I has been a bit that's still annoys me, I guess, if for lack of a better term, is mixing. It just takes so much time to mix. And with the large figures, you have to mix so much more and so much more often, you know, because it's hard to mix a big blob of putty at once. So you end up either forcing yourself to do a large blob, which is difficult, or you're constantly, you know, mixing smaller amounts. So
One of the things I've done instead of, you know, bulking with leftover putty is I'll mix it with, I'll have the Abes on hand to mix it. So I'll just go ahead and make up the difference and start making tabs or just something useful with it.
cool. Just a second, I have to try and find. For some reason, Ian didn't get the thing. Let's try this again. And if you can hear me, I'm going to invite you again right now. It's going to your Gmail. Oops. There we go. All right, cool. Sorry about that. All right. Excuse me. So where are you from, Kevin?
I'm from Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay, cool. So not too far. In the grand scheme of things, you go to Austin.
No, it's about a 3-hour drive.
Is that where your in-law or your folks live?
I actually grew up about 45 miles south of Houston. It's a little suburb called Lake Jackson. And then after I came back from college, my wife and I actually live out in Pearland, which is, you know, a mile south. It's one of Houston's suburbs. So we both work in Houston.
Where is that?
Sorry, my 3-year-old is negotiating with his mother.
All right, I'm going to try and send him a link. So he's something with this Hangout thing, it seems.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Rich.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problem, man. Let's see. I'm trying to get Ian his link. Ian, I'm using the email that you have on Patreon, which I would think would work. I'll send you a message with a link. Maybe that'll. I don't know if that'll let you invite or if that will just let you watch, but I'm not sure what else to do because I've sent it like 3 times. And you should be getting a pop-up in, like, if you're signed in with your Gmail, you should be getting a pop-up message where you can click join the call or something like that. So maybe your Hangouts is disabled or something. You might also have to have the Hangouts. There's like a little plugin or extension for Chrome. You might have to have that installed. If you don't have that installed, that could be what's not letting you in either. I think I made this guy's legs too long, but we'll see. We'll see. You doing anything fun for the 4th, Rich?
No, nothing. You know, just family stuff, usual.
Yeah.
How about you?
Staycation with my wife.
What about the kids? Are they going to be there too? Or?
They're gonna be at Camp Grandma.
Camp Grandma.
So we're going up there this weekend. We'll stay for a day, and then we'll head back.
Nice.
Yes.
Hey, I discovered something about this Fimo I've been using.
Uh-huh.
Professional, I think it's called, right?
Yeah.
So I bought the little plastic.
Staycation with my. Sorry, Rich. What'd you say?
I have the same cases that you put them in, the little like.
Oh yeah, these little
this
thing.
Yes. So I have a similar thing like that. So I had put some in there, and I hadn't used it in a while, and it like separated, like this really clear liquid had separated from the clay.
Really, even with Fimo, I had that happen with Super Sculpting and Super Sculpey Firm. I don't think it separated liquid. It looked more like, to me, at least with that, it like melted the plastic. So yours did a reverse. The plastic affected the clay. It sounds like.
And so the clay was super dry, and there was this clear liquid, really sticky liquid, all in the case. And it took a long time, like just mixing. My hands were all messy. It took a long while, and I had to use I have a pasta roller. So I just little by little kept taking the crumbles and throwing it in there and doing, and I managed to start to get it back. But even right now, the clay is very, very firm. Very, very.
Did you ever get mixed quick?
Oh yeah. I have that. I haven't mixed it in yet, but
I'd probably just buy a new block. But
well, it's not the whole block. It was just.
Oh, okay, just that bit.
So like I had just taken a little. It was like a little travel.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So my chunk of stuff is still fine.
That's
all
good.
My others is completely fine. It was just a little part I put in these little bead cases.
Yeah, I don't know what type of plastic this is. It's pretty hard. I usually keep my Fimo and clay in like just more of a typical Tupperware, where it's a little more flex. And I've never had any reaction with this stuff. So yeah, it must be whatever that plastic is. That's crazy.
Yeah, the rest of it I have in a container that's kind of like those Chinese soup containers, kind of one like those, and it's fine. Nothing happened. It was just this case, this plastic bead case.
Wow.
I don't know why.
It's this kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
It ate through the plastic. Apparently, there's some kinds of plastic that the whatever it is, the emollients in the Fimo react with the plastic.
Oh, okay.
So they break it down.
Welcome, Ian.
Thank you.
Glad you got on.
Yeah. Plus, I'm Canadian, so I felt like it was my fault. So I'm playing with a soldering iron here.
Cool.
If you hear me screaming. Uh,
I've got to buy a real soldering iron, or at least one with a stand, because I just can't believe I haven't burnt myself or melted anything with the one I'm using right now.
well, I have no idea what I'm doing. So
Is this the first time you're armaturing? You're doing it live on here for the first time, or?
it's the first time that I've done. So like I have a bunch of armatures that I've made with stuff.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this is the first time I've tried this technique. So I don't even really have a technique. I'm just
Gotcha.
going with it.
All right, I'm going to get some putty on this guy. Did you get to work on anything new recently, Rich?
Yeah, but nothing to show. I started
Gotcha.
sculpting something.
Cool. Excuse me.
What are the smallest minis you've ever made? Because I've seen some guys that are making crazy scales.
You say what's the smallest I've ever made?
Yeah.
Did you ask what the smallest size I ever made was?
Yeah.
15 millimeters, the smallest I've ever attempted.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I haven't attempted it. I did it. I did a bunch of them. So, but yeah, I haven't never done anything smaller than that. I've never. I don't know. I got into this because of the cooler, larger 28 millimeters. So that's kind of what I've always tended to sculpt. Although I do like the idea of 15s a lot. I just haven't gotten around. I've got a couple projects in mind, but I just keep doing this size. So this guy is small, but he is for kind of a typical 30 millimeter scale, but he's only about 16 millimeters tall, standing up straight. But he's going to have larger proportions and stuff than a 15 millimeter miniature. Yeah, that's funny. It just hit me how small this guy was. A lot easier to build the armature when you know that the head doesn't have to be, this guy's head's going to be bigger than a normal human's head, so you don't have to worry about keeping everything so teeny tiny and
Proportional.
Right, proportional. So I've been having some, I've got tons of different ideas for the show that I've been writing down and kind of making out a little schedule for. Actually, one of the big things I'm going to try and do this week, since I've got more time, is I'm going to try and start stocking up more recording. Miko, who watches the show, he actually did 100 days also. At the same time I was doing it, is helping me with video stuff. So if I can get like a big mess of content ready, he can kind of get stuff all prepped for me and hopefully keep the show a little more regular.
That's cool. What's your ratio of sort of recording hours to viewable?
I'm always so bad at recording my time for anything. I've always kind of been, you just do it till it's done type of guy. Probably mostly because I'd be horrified if I knew how long it was taking me to do things. Let's see. What did I do last time? I probably record. It depends on the item. Like that skeleton tutorial.
Yeah.
Obviously, I sculpted the whole thing, so that was several hours, and then but the mold making one was significantly shorter because I just had to record myself as I did it. But it was still a couple hours of fiddling around, obviously, and also when there's more time involved than just the recording, because you got to set things up and get it prepared. So I don't know. It especially then with the editing and stuff. I probably spend maybe 6 hours or so on a video. I don't know, maybe more, sometimes less. Depends. But that's what's kind of cool about at least the sculpting part, and that part in my mind I almost don't count, because a lot of the time the sculpting video content, if I time it right, I can be sculpting something for a video that I need to be sculpting on anyways, and I'm just recording it rather than sitting at my desk with nothing on. So kind of works out. Right. It makes it seem less like I'm spending a lot of specific time just for the videos.
Right.
So
Right. This
which
is
good.
live on here. I'm going for it. No idea what I'm doing.
Right. But yeah, I've got a couple different things prepped for some videos I've been wanting to do for a while. It's actually funny though. Sometimes, like I want to get to it and just be sculpting. We're like, oh no, I can't work on that guy. Like there's like I wanted to work on this one thing during the Hangout, but I was like, oh shoot, no, I need to record that, and
Right.
it's not high enough quality on here that I could reuse it. So I've got to wait and just do it specifically for that.
Because you stream from the camera that you record with normally?
I don't anymore. I used to. The camera I record from is just my iPhone 6, regular iPhone 6. And that does work, but I also had to be logged in with a couple different accounts, and so I'd be streaming from my computer and from that phone, and the battery could run out if we went a little long or if I wasn't fully charged.
Right.
So I got a dedicated webcam, which works pretty good. The only thing, and it seems to be doing pretty good this time, but sometimes it doesn't focus where I want it to.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't have to worry about the, yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I have to worry about with that. Other than that, it works great. So, and maybe I'll have some different equipment in the future. We'll see. I try to use as much of what I have as I can instead of constantly chasing the newer, better thing as I let this kind of grow more organically. Well, let's see. I'm going to watch you solder.
Well, so here we go. Like I got this guy.
Cool. So did you twist him together first and you're binding it with the solder?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's my, I don't know, lazy version of green stuff.
No, that's good. Well, it's a lot more secure. That's actually a really good idea. I might try that because that would work with the way I normally make armatures too.
Yes, I'm struggling with that because maybe it's just because it's less convenient with the green stuff. Maybe I'll just do a guy like that. Try it the other way too.
Well, there's a couple different ways, and I don't know, the way I used to make my armatures was even more intense, but it held up really well. This one, sometimes the arms can wiggle out a little bit, but I like that it allows me to keep things a little more trim in the armature area. That's
right.
the biggest reason.
How you do the way that ends up with the shoulders and the hips aligned, right?
That's how I solder them now. My shoulders can technically be out of alignment slightly, but I usually make up for that and kind of fix it in the when I'm having them come out to form the shoulders.
So I'm just gonna...
So, but that way works great, the way you're doing it with that twist. And I've done it that way too. That's actually a really good way. The only, well, it's not a problem. The only thing you have to be mindful of is how you're going to attach the head, and which actually isn't hard at all. And you can just lay a piece of wire on there and either putty it up or solder it. That's actually how I make my armatures when I know that I'm going to do a head swap or have the head multiple heads and stuff like that, or if just cutting off the head, I'll add the head on as a separate wire coming off the back, because that you can just pull it right out because it's not attached to the main armature. It's a separate piece.
So then what do? You just make a loop like at the end of the wire and then put it down on the...
Yeah, so like, let me see if I have something. Oh, here, I'll just do it real quick.
Because the way you do it now is the way where you do basically spine, hips, and legs, and then you attach the head and arms to that, right?
Yeah, but I actually allow my head to be part of the spine as well.
Oh, right.
You don't have to, but okay. So we'll twist these up. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, you did an even easier way than I'm doing. So this is a really lame way, but so the way you did it, you actually have one single piece of wire that's rounds and connects like this, and that's your arms or your legs, whatever. You can do either way. And you spin it together to be the spine, and then you cut it apart.
Right.
And you set your shoulders, which is nice because they're nice. They're flush and everything. And sometimes when you spin this, you do obviously, unless you line it right, one shoulder can be slightly in front of the other. But again, because of where it sets, you can very easily hide that in the sculpt. So then what I do for a head is I take something like this, just a wire with a loop on it, and then pop it on like that.
Okay.
And then I would either green stuff that or glue it or solder it. I can't get it focused.
I have other armatures that are like this, right, which are like the other style.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's the way I normally do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that way's a really good way too. It all comes down to, I guess, where you always seem to have to attach something. You got to attach the arms or the head.
Right.
So, but it all works. Let's see. But I think these arms were set on here a little too lightly because they're wiggling. That's okay. I'll let this kind of green stuff skin cure, and then should be locked in place.
So I'm having trouble with my green stuff sticking to everything.
Yes,
and I don't know if
very
that's
sticky.
Sorry,
what did you say?
Well, I don't know if it's just a matter of proportions. Like the first time I used it, so I started off with Abe's.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I used the green stuff, I was blown away. It was so much better in several ways. And it just seemed to be perfect. Like it didn't seem to stick to anything. But ever since then, I can't seem to get it the same way. So I end up using water like crazy.
Gotcha. Before I answer your question, so was it colder when you first started using green stuff? Has it become a lot warmer recently? Yeah, it's much more malleable, and therefore, whenever it's warmer, it's more malleable and more sticky. So that's probably why it's feeling different to you now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As far as, but you typically always have to use some sort of lubricant. Water's fine. That's how I very first started using green stuff. I used water, but there were several times, especially like you're saying, when you're using a lot, you can get water trapped underneath the putty.
Okay.
and then it doesn't stick, and you have to try and blow it off or dry it off. And so I didn't like it. So I started using spit, which is what a lot of people were using and do. But now I don't use it. I don't think I do it that much. It's actually, when you develop your touch, you do need some lubrication, especially when you're trying to burnishing. But like, I'm touching this tool to it right now, and it's coming off, and it's fine. So you'll develop a touch that will allow you to manipulate some. But sometimes you do need a little bit of lubrication. And what I ended up using was petroleum jelly, which is what I got here. Nowadays, I tend to just do kind of what I do with polyclay, and I'll just rub it, touch it to my face, get a little of my skin oil. But if you're using this stuff, you just get a little off, put it somewhere. You don't. I put it on my hand. You don't need very much though, but you just get some on your tool, and then I rub it on a dry spot on my hand, and there's still a slight film of it. And if you need more, you can let there be more, but you really don't need as much as you think, because you do want to have some of that tack with your tool. That's actually one of the biggest benefits of sculpting with putty, is letting your tool get stuck to it, because you can do some neat little pulls with it. And obviously when it gets too slippery, then you have to let it cure and wipe it off, and so you can apply more putty. But yeah, so I would suggest, if you're having trouble with the water, I would get some petroleum jelly and start practicing using that very sparingly. That's my favorite lubricant for putties.
Yeah, because I use vegetable oil with the Fimo.
Oh, that might actually work too. I've never tried that, but I mean, I would imagine it would actually do the same thing.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd just try some of that. Just again, like I said, just be careful you don't get too much on the putty.
Right.
But if you do, you can end up kind of putting rubbing alcohol on it, and that tends to break down the oil.
Oh, that's good. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, that's when I used to, before I learned to be more sparing with the petroleum jelly. I would have problems all the time, and that was the only way I could get it unslick enough to do stuff with. So.
Unsparing phase.
Hey Tom, I'm sorry. Real quick. You told me this at Adepticon, but I never got a chance to order it.
Okay.
The sculpting tool you order from, I think, Australia.
Australia.
What is that?
It's a Wax 5.
Wax 5. Thanks.
And yeah, Aetherworks is the company. I've got both of mine from. They're from Australia. It's worth it. It's a very cool tool. You don't have to use it. You can get something. I use it. I don't ever use this end. You could. I use it for this end.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a large burnisher, but I just love that it's long, so you can get long areas, but it's also tapered in a way that you can actually use it for a ton. Even though it's a fairly large tool.
Cool.
So
thanks.
yeah, no problem. There we go. I don't know if I hunched this guy over enough. I want to bulk him up more, but I also want to bend him a little bit after he cures. So yeah, got lots of ideas for new episodes, and I've come up with some ideas for some other challenges and engagements to kind of get more people to kind of participate, not necessarily in the show, but just in sculpting, because that was actually one of the coolest things that I remember back when I first got into this on the One List sculpting group. They used to have, I don't remember what it's called now, maybe Visions and Putty, used to have this little challenge where the group would kind of determine a topic, and then everybody would, you know, kind of sculpt their version of it, and there was no prize or anything. It was just kind of to give you a prompt to get people, you know, working, and then it was always so cool to see everybody's take on it. I think, though, if memory serves, Fortress Figures actually a lot of times donated their time and resources and would mold them and send at least some of the participants castings. I don't remember if it was all of them or if like the community voted for certain ones. So I guess that was a bit of a reward that you could get your sculpts cast up and shared with people. And they'd totally be yours. It was just, you know, they didn't own anything. I think that'd be really fun to start doing again. Seeing other people, what they're doing.
It'd be fun. It's sort of like, what's it called? Like going to a sketch class or whatever.
Yeah. That's a neat way of looking at it, actually. Trying to make it more than just because that's actually was always one of the challenges of doing that, is like it'd be a month long and you'd be talking about it on the forum, but there was, I mean, back then there wasn't this. You couldn't do video hangouts. So maybe part of it would be just doing hangouts where people were specifically working on that, and that could give some more motivation and a specific time where you are working on it, and we can share what's going on.
Plus, when you get, then you can always like tap somebody else in the hangout and say like, "Yo."
Exactly. That's a really good idea.
Plus, I think there are people on the hangout that are like in different time zones, right?
Yes.
Someone who's like, are they in Australia or something?
Did we have an Australian? Yeah, I think we did last hangout, didn't we? I can't remember his name.
Someone was on like 10 hours away or something.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I remember now.
So if there was an opportunity for people to get together and just sort of work and maybe post all of the, like, I don't know, like one of those, sometimes they do those things in YouTube videos where like you tag people or something. So like, I don't know, something like do a bunch of live hangouts and then compile them at the end of the month. Or, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Oopsie, knocking everything around. Okay, where's my putty oven?
So I got to ask you what you think of. I see you mixing green stuff all the time by hand. What are your thoughts on the toxicity of
it? I see you're wearing gloves. Are you mixing it right now?
Yeah.
I know that some people do seem to have an allergic reaction to it. Like so they can feel tingle on their skin. Do you?
Yeah, I haven't had any reaction, but I just sort of, I figure that like when I'm really manipulating it a lot, I sort of just do it with the gloves. And then like now I'm gonna actually skin the guy, but so I'm gonna do it just off my thumb.
Right, your nail's more protected though, so
I'm just sort of like better safe than sorry or something.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I know a lot of guys who have sculpted a lot more than me and use exclusively green stuff and putties, and none of them had it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen because I've known people where it does, but and again, for me, I've never had an issue, and I've sculpted with it a lot myself. But I know it does for some people, so and I mean, obviously, it's a chemical thing, so not surprising. And I know there's some people that actually won't, like, you know, I said saliva is a lubricant a lot of people use. There's a lot of people that won't because they don't like the idea of eating the particles. And again, they're probably completely right, but I've never personally experienced any adverse effects that I know of.
Tom Meyer's been using green stuff since the 70s.
There you go. Right. Yeah. I mean, Sandra Garrity the same way. And they've sculpted many lifetimes of myself with that material. So, but like I said, it can affect some people. Some people are sensitive to it. So but I believe it's pretty relatively inert. But if you have worry, then absolutely protect yourself, or try a different material even.
Well, so the funny thing is, I got the I ordered the Abe's sculpt stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I got it and I opened it up and I took a huge whiff and almost fell over.
Wait, what material was this?
The Abe's. Because it reeks, like it's just horribly. And the green stuff in comparison, like, I mean, it doesn't smell at all. Like it has.
Yeah, it's definitely a much less of a smell. I actually don't find, maybe it's my Aves, maybe my Aves is older than, maybe they've changed it. But it definitely has an odor. The worst stuff I've ever smelled in my life was, and what's their faces? Procreate makes a version of this, but you can get this in a plumber's. It's like a plumber's putty, and it's like a tube of putty with, you know, it's got like the gray on the outside and the dark on the middle and the inside, straight tube, and you cut off a bit. It's, oh my gosh, it reeks. And I had to like seal it up in 2 bags to like not smell it while I wasn't using it.
That's bad.
Yeah, and that I wore gloves with because I could. I mean, I don't know what that is, but it's strong stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wore gloves for that, and it cures rock hard, and I think it cures faster too, which is another reason that I wore gloves, because I did not want to get it embedded in my flesh. So here's I actually took some videos of this, sculpting some of this earlier. I need to compile it. I've got some footage ready for making minis episode, but I've been having fun doing little micro conversions on stuff. These are some Redbox game miniatures that I got from Redbox Games from Trey to finish off my Saga warband that I'm going to be using for it. But I need some more bowmen, but they, you know, they're all different and dynamic, but when you need tons of them, you know, you end up coming back around. So to make them different, they all had hoods on, so I chopped them off, filed them down, and I gave like these 2 guys some hairdos, and then this guy actually has a hood again, but it's different, and I made it look like he's got his hood pulled back, and so that was fun. A little way to kind of add variety.
Yeah,
it's actually something I want to try and do more with my own sculpts, try and do some conversions and maybe get some more mileage.
I try to find reasons to buy minis, but I'm not very good at coming up with them.
Do you play the games much?
I don't. That's the problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. I mean,
I was a D&D guy back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I have about $6,000 in D&D books in my basement now.
Oh wow.
But I just had my first kid last year, so even finding time to sculpt is.
Yep.
But I went on vacation 2 weeks ago, and before that, I had sculpted at least twice a week every week for since Christmas. So
great.
Not quite 100 days, but.
Yeah, I fall into that same boat with. I find lots of reasons to buy the miniatures, and I do play the games from time to time, but not nearly as much as I want and like to think I do, but I just keep buying miniatures.
Yeah, well, my wife shared this article with me about decluttering, and it was decluttering is fine, but you should not get rid of things that make you feel good. So I use this argument to keep all of my D&D books, because I say it doesn't matter if I don't play. Like when I look at them, I feel like, you know, one day maybe I'll play, and so that makes me feel good. So.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because that's one of the things about the decluttering is you have to be careful, because you might regret it and then you'll buy it back for even more because you're like desperate to reclaim what you lost.
Well, yeah, and we're not monks here. We're just trying to live our lives.
Hey, Mateus. I've still never used Milliput. I think about it sometimes just because people ask me about it a lot, but
it's super messy.
Yeah.
It works a lot better with water, and especially if you're using spit, you'll find that it just gets all over your tools and all over your fingers. And
oh, yeah, that's not good.
It's a good thing to start off on, and it's a lot more available, especially at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. But when I moved up to Green Stuff and Procreate, I was never looked back.
Yeah, that's why I've never done it, because I can do what I need to do with this material, and it never seemed like it was going to give me anything in particular that I wasn't already getting.
I did use Milliput for weapons, a sword and shield, like one of the first things I was sculpting a long time ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yes.
That was the only time I used it. I mean, like, you basically just made a rough shape, and then you use like a Dremel to like create an edge. That's how
it cures hard, right? Like the Aves.
It's a little, it's really brittle though. You can use it as a substitute. I know some people like to mix
Milliput with the green.
I actually keep it around the house for home repairs.
Oops, too much. I think we'll be on here for about 5 more minutes, and I gotta log off.
Okay. Do you have any more interviews lined up?
I have 3 people that said they will do interviews, but I have not scheduled them yet. So I need to. That's another thing I need to get kind of a backlog of, because I can do those pretty much any time. So yes, I'm excited. I want to get Jody Siegel of Imbrian Arts, Bill Thornhill of Footsore Miniatures, and Jason Wiebe. And there's actually a lot of other people, and I'm pretty sure they will do interviews, but I haven't actually asked them yet, so that's why I'm not mentioning them.
Well, I like hearing all the different perspectives. There's just so many different ways to achieve this, the ultimate goal at the end. And so it's nice to see all the different perspectives.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to interview Bill and Jason specifically, just because they've been doing this for so long. Because everybody else I've interviewed has done this for, about as long as I have, or in Tim's case, even less. But Tim's doing a great job, so he's going miles in just a couple of years.
It can also be hard to find information on certain sculptors as well. I've found not a lot of people do what you do. That it's very helpful and instructive.
Cool. I'm gonna do this instead. I was going to make an axe head, but I think this wire is too flimsy until I beef it up. So I'll make the handle. There we go. So did you get an armature soldered, Ian?
Yeah, I'm skinning him up right now.
Cool. That is one thing I really like about the solder is you can, versus puttying everything up, is you can just get right into it.
Yeah, it's super fast. It's so fast that I have no idea what I'm gonna do with this armature. But I guess sometimes it's like that. You just sort of start drawing or writing or playing something and see what comes out.
All right.
Here's what I've got soldered together. See that?
Cool. Oops. Did you sculpt anything, Kevin, while we were here?
No, I wouldn't be able to pay attention.
Gotcha. I
would have been zoned off in La La Land.
It's hard to sculpt and talk. I'm getting better at it now because I've been doing this more. But yeah, I used to when I went to ReaperCon or Gen Con, a lot of times there'd be spaces to sit and sculpt but visit, and I would never get anything done.
No, I'm pretty good with budgeting my time, so I'll probably get maybe 30, 45 minutes to sculpt tomorrow morning before I go to work.
Cool. All right. I feel pretty productive today. Not anything like super fancy, but got 4 things underway, so that's something. You may notice that I purposely usually am working on stuff that doesn't take a lot of brain power when we're out here. Because, yeah, otherwise don't seem to get much done. Maybe I'll challenge myself to try and sculpt a face next time that we're doing this, though. Something a little harder, a little more concentration. All right, guys. That's it for today. Thanks for coming to hang out, and thanks for all the patrons for supporting you guys and everybody else. And, yeah, don't forget to keep sculpting.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep. See you later, guys.
Later.
Bye.